they don't have what they really need.
You won't end up solving a person's pain.
And it literally took me 15 minutes.
These are our features. These are our benefits.
Finger pointing, heated discussions.
It happens all the time.
I've seen them at each other's necks.
You're going to know what that pain point is.
Because it's a waste of time.
You would not hire us.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest, Ben Kniffen, is the co-founder and chief visionary officer of Link Selling. He's known for helping B2C and B2B companies consistently generate quality leads, appointments, and new clients through Facebook and LinkedIn. In this episode, Ben will share proven systems and strategies for building a repeatable, high-converting sales pipeline by leveraging social platforms. He's doing it by being agnostic and scaling businesses globally. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Ben Kniffen.
Thanks, John. Appreciate the invite, and like we were talking about beforehand, honored to be among the greats who have been on your show.
Yeah, we've had some great guys and industry leaders, impact leaders. A lot of people talk about thought leader. We don't really focus on thought leaders as much as results leaders, and that's what you are.
I definitely align with that, because I will see a lot of people these days who are great at putting out thought leadership, and I think that's important. We love working with our clients in that area, and we love working with clients who have a lot of thought leadership. But there gets to be a point where you got to be almost like what should we say, a thought doer. You got to be a doer and an executor of good marketing campaigns, good lead gen, and that's what we're really trying to do for our clients and for ourselves.
Hey, yeah, I love that. One of my mentors is Chet Holmes.
Oh, yeah.
He wrote a book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. And he said very few CEOs can do both.
Yeah.
Some can do the strategic and some can do the tactical, but very few, less than 5%, can actually do both. And that's why they need a team around them.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny you mentioned that, because that book has been pretty instrumental on my side as well. And I've worked with Chet's daughter, actually, in the past. We had some live events that she was a guest speaker at. This is a long time ago, pre-COVID, which is ancient times now. But yeah, I remember, you read, there are some books that you read where you earmark one page here and one page there. And then there's books like The Ultimate Sales Machine where you're earmarking like every other page because it's so good. But yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah. As a tribute, my very first episode I did was about the ultimate sales machine and Chet Holmes and his life and the impact that he had. Phenomenal man. Taught me more about sales at the highest level, education-based marketing, than anyone.
Yeah.
Like literally just a rock star, way before his time, ahead of his time.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that I've also worked with a number of his sales managers over the years, and they are all behemoths in their own right.
Do you know Ted Miller?
Yep. Ted Miller is one of the people who, used to manage for Chet Holmes, and actually worked with him a number of years ago as well on, a lot of the stuff that we're probably going to be diving into today on, raising up sales team members, sales leaders. We were talking about some mutual connections that you and I have before this. Some of those connections were working at my organization when we were working with Ted. So I've known Ted for 7 years or so. Yeah, very, very knowledgeable. Good dude.
Ted's a badass. We're gonna have him on the show as well. But this show is about the sales machine is all about helping companies go from ordinary to extraordinary based on real, relevant strategies and tactics that are working right now. And Ben, you've been in the industry and you guys just slayed LinkedIn with link selling. You slayed it. I know so many people that have worked with your organization and everyone speaks highly. But let's get into Ben Kniffen's story. So how did you get involved in sales and marketing?
Yeah, so my partner and I started our business, 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And we kind of got into this, as most people do, kind of in a backwards way. Both my partner and I were working with clients, and we had projects where we needed to get in front of certain people, certain decision makers, get in front of certain eyeballs at companies. And this was at a time where social media was just getting to the forefront of B2B marketing and sales development. And so we had a number of projects that we were working on. We were trying to think, how do we connect with the people that we need to get in front of? And we started seeing like, oh my gosh, all of these quote unquote gatekeepers that, that we needed to get in front of, but from a very high level, any salesperson who needs to get in front of a gatekeeper, you could find them on LinkedIn. And you could actually connect with them and get them to open up and engage when you connect and message them. Now, this is in the early days, and so it's a different game now, and there's more volume that's needed to achieve results and things like that. But early on, we were seeing, oh my gosh, if we want to talk to, it almost felt like if you wanted to talk to someone on the president's cabinet, you could find them on LinkedIn, connect with them, and you could engage. And so we started to see that this was we were doing this for ourselves, but we were seeing this was a real viable service to offer other companies. And so we became masters of the process, if you will. How do we prospect? How do we connect? But then we really had to kind of hone our skills in good B2B marketing and messaging strategy as well. And along with good B2B sales strategy. Marketing and sales are kind of joined at the hip. And so over time, we started realizing, hey, we have a real process that can deliver results for companies. And then we had to kind of use it for ourselves to engage as many companies as possible. What we started to find over time is that LinkedIn is just a tool that you use to get this particular job done. It's just a channel now. These solid tenets of B2B marketing and sales infrastructure, they're not dependent on a certain channel. It doesn't just work on LinkedIn. It can work cold calling. It can work through email. It can work via paid ads. There's all sorts of different strategies that come down to how you execute it to target the right person with the right message. And we can get into some of this. A right person, right message, and have the right machine to deliver that message. And so really over the last 12 years, we have been knee deep in B2B lead generation and sales development, working with pretty much companies in every single vertical possible: tech, construction, business consulting, leadership development. I mean, any professional service, B2B or B2C, you name it, we have been there, we have done it. And so that's really our background and our story. We've honed our craft, kind of starting off as a LinkedIn only agency. And growing, you had mentioned things like running Facebook ads or even doing things like cold calling and cold emailing. If it falls under the heading of lead generation and sales development, we can handle executing campaigns in those arenas. But that's how we got from point A to point B.
Right on. So from point A to point B, you saw the evolution. Tell me, what have you noticed about the evolution of LinkedIn from when you began, like pre-COVID days?
Sure.
And when it first started out, there wasn't a lot of, spray and pray.
Correct.
And there was a lot less volume, and you could really access leaders in organizations, and it was almost effortless in the beginning. Let's talk. Tell me, and the guests or the listeners, tell the listeners, like, what have you seen throughout the evolution, and where are we at right now, and what's working best on LinkedIn right now?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, there was an emphasis on process, trying to figure out where to go in a platform, what button to click, and what process to repeat a million times over. And over time, this is where we begin to see the increase in the spray and pray, of what ended up, kind of overtaking LinkedIn's platform. LinkedIn kind of adjusted and made changes to their platform. And now the process isn't a secret to anybody anymore. Back in 2013, when we told people we were managing LinkedIn campaigns, we were cutting edge. But today they're like, cool, you and every other company, so what? Now there is an emphasis more on the type of message that you're sending. What's the right type of message? I think before, what you had mentioned, the effortlessness. that people could connect and engage with other people on LinkedIn maybe 10 years ago. And I think that just came with the newness of the platform and the newness of the processes. But once, the honeymoon phase wore off, people are in a world now where they're getting tons of messages from a million different people. Now, you're not competing against your competitors now. You are competing against everybody who targets your prospects. So even, I run a lead generation agency. I'm competing against somebody who has a software program who's sending messages to my target that doesn't have anything to do with my service. Does that make sense? I'm competing against that person because we are all asking for the attention from the same prospect. So the process itself isn't that special anymore. It's the message that becomes the key component. We generally find in any campaign, the right message is the most difficult box to check. In the past, I think that companies would rely heavily on a very feature-based message. This is who we are. This is what we do. These are the cool features. This is why we're awesome. This is why we're special. What we find these days is we need to have a message that's more focused on our prospects. What pains do they have? What problems are they experiencing? How can they eliminate those pains and problems? All too many times businesses are trying to kind of tout, they have a message that really only speaks about what they do. You need a message that names your prospect's pain. That is one of the biggest things that we preach within our marketing and within our sales strategy as well. It's identifying the problem. But that's what I would say is that all that gobbledygook of me rambling just then is to say that the big difference between early days of this and today, the main thing that's changed, I think, is the focus from initially being on the process. The cat's out of the bag. Everybody knows this process now. What is more important is the message that you're putting in front of your prospects.
Yeah. So for me, that comes back to, for the way I see sales is, or the ability to scale and generate leads. It's all about the psychology.
Yeah.
And then you've got to have the right methodology, especially, an advanced methodology that's better, faster, more efficient than whatever everybody else is doing. And then you got to back it with technology.
There is certainly, these days, first off, 10 years ago, there wasn't the automation. There wasn't the AI. My gosh, in the, 10 minutes that we've been talking here, probably 8 new AI tools have been created. So certainly that plays a part in it. But all of those AI tools, the overwhelming majority of them are trying to help you create messages and cadences and interactions with your prospects that pique their interest, that get them to respond. And I'm not going to say it's 100% of the time because someone will make me eat my words, but generally 99% of the time, that right message comes down to pain-based messaging. And then like what you're saying is figuring out a process on how to scale up that pain-based messaging. And of course, you got to have a process where that message goes to the right person. These are big tenets that we teach. Right person, right message. And then everyone thinks that I'm going to say right time. It's not right time. It's right process. And when you're in marketing and sales, you're almost like a manufacturer. Material in, material out. Prospects in, leads out. Leads in, sales out. And so we have constantly worked with our clients to pivot them to focus on checking 3 boxes. Are we targeting the right person? Is it the right message? Do we have the right process to deliver that message to them?
I like it. Yeah, because ultimately, you got a headache, you'll take a Tylenol.
That's it.
But you got a migraine and it's happening for, 5 days, you're going to the hospital.
That's it.
Aaron Ross gave me that analogy. When you can target that pain, because people will buy right now if the pain is deep enough. And, people talk about what moves people is pain and pleasure. I guarantee you the pain works a lot more than the pleasure.
Yeah. And I think a lot of companies these days, as technology advances, and it is crazy how many companies are trying to figure out a way to import AI into their solution and their offerings, even if it has no business of being there. Everybody's trying to create an app. Everybody's trying to create some sort of technology that makes them unique and makes it scalable. And then they start to conflate. They just begin to put out the wrong message. They start thinking that what everyone cares about is, do you have AI and the latest technology integrated within your app? And that's not what they care about. They care about the pain. If I can name the headache, as you quote, that a person is having, they'll listen. And that's what's the most important thing. Can I name a headache that you have? Because if I can do that and a person really has that headache, they're like, oh my gosh, they know me. They must know what the solution is if they name the pain that I'm having.
Yeah, it's so funny. I had a demo with the bank yesterday. They have 600 branches, 8,000 people, and they were loving up on our solution.
Yep.
They're like, but at the end of the day, the guy in the VP was like, it's phenomenal what your system does. I mean, literally remarkable. However, we have a data warehouse with insights as well. But what we don't want to do anymore is go through all these different millions of points of data and look at credit card transactions. Do you have AI that can just give me a summary daily of what to do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, sure we can. As long as we have that data, we can let you know the trends and how much people are spending and when are they spending and what are they spending it on. Because you're a bank, you have all that transactional data. And their eyes lit up. They immediately booked another call with their entire tech team, and they're what they call team data, right? Because ultimately they don't have what they really need to make real-time decisions that are relevant. So they're experiencing a lot of pain from the leadership.
Well, I think you bring up a good point here, because if you go into that sales call with the same sales pitch that a company could deliver to every single person, these are our features, these are our benefits, you won't end up solving a person's pain. But when you uncover that pain, you're able to provide a solution. You could tell somebody you've got a million features and benefits, and they're like, I could care less. I only care about if you can solve my pain. And so, again, this is why we pivot hardcore to this, nailing this right message. I think the other thing for us is that there's a lot of agencies who are real specialized and do one thing really well. And I will say, we are not an agency that does everything. Our firm, you would not hire us as a web development agency, for example. That's one area we do not specialize in. But lead generation, we're all over the place. Sometimes companies come to us and they think they need a certain solution or they need a certain type of campaign. Maybe they come to us to run ads, and we have to tell them, and we run ads. We have to tell them that's not going to work because it doesn't check these three boxes. It won't be the platform to deliver the right message. But my point in saying this is that everybody will start thinking that the key to this is this platform or this channel. No, the key to this is first this, like getting this right message and then figuring out what's the process to get it to the right person. Who's that right person? I mean, we go back to this all the time. You'll hear me repeat it 1,000 times on this. Right person, right message, and then right delivery, right system, right machine. What's going to do that? That is the key to success. Every time we see a campaign or a company that's like, we're not getting leads, we're not getting what we should, it's because they're missing one of those boxes. They're not checking one of them appropriately. And a lot of times the messaging component is not being checked like it should.
Yeah, I get it. And we don't do product demos until we actually do discovery.
Yeah,
And
I think that's smart.
It literally took me 15 minutes speaking to 4 different individuals to get to the pain. Because,
Right.
like you said, they don't understand what's the biggest problem. And we finally dialed it in to having real-time data insights with trends so that they could, forecast and build out campaigns to retarget their credit card customers.
Yeah.
And they just didn't know how they could get there initially. And so it's so funny that, I engage every single one and enroll every single one before I even show the system, because
And
it's a waste of time.
yeah, that totally makes sense, because if you do discovery and you know what their pain is, now you're going to pair that solution with them. The challenge for the marketer is that as a salesperson doing discovery before you show the solution, you're going to know what that pain point is. You get the advantage in discovery of asking questions. What problems are you experiencing? Why is this a pain in your butt? And then you can come back with a solution and pair that to their pain points. But as marketers, we don't necessarily always get that insight. I mean, certainly as good marketers, maybe we're involved in a campaign where we already have a lot of sales data, but maybe not. And we have to kind of figure out what is the pain that these businesses are actually experiencing. Every good campaign is going to start at that level. But yeah, it totally makes sense that your process is going to start with discovery before the demo. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, because in marketing, you're selling without selling. And
Yes.
that marketing's purpose is to generate leads, sales qualified leads for the salesperson.
Yep.
Not MQLs, not smoke and mirrors. Like, give me some real leads, because speaking to what you said earlier, sales and marketing are literally, I've seen them at each other's necks.
It happens all the time. They're on opposite sides of the fence consistently. Yes.
Yeah, and finger pointing, heated discussions, even in my business. Like, marketing is saying, "No, we brought you leads," and the salespeople said they suck.
Right.
Your leads suck.
Yeah.
I can prospect on my own, and it's a never-ending, revolving door. And so for me, I'm like, reel it in, folks. Let's take a time out. We're on the same side here.
I think why this happens, this is an interesting point you bring up, because first off, both of these teams need each other. And we encounter this a lot in a lot of companies that we work with. I mean, we have some clients who the sales team will not talk to the marketing team. They hate them. They won't do it. But here's my point. What generally happens is that for any business to truly sell product or services at scale, there needs to be a story that we're telling throughout our marketing funnels. And there needs to be a story that we're telling by the time it gets to sales. And, like I keep saying, it's going to be a pain-based story, right? We're going to tell a story about somebody who has a specific problem, and we're going to name that pain, and then we're going to match it to a solution. Well, a lot of times what we find is that companies, their marketing team, the story they're telling is different than the story that the sales team is selling. And this is why marketing and sales will butt heads, because they won't work together to check these three boxes: right person, right message, pain-based message, and then the right delivery or right system to get that message to them. And this is why, I mean, my gosh, marketing and sales should not be at each other's throats. They should be best friends. Marketing needs to know what sales is hearing on the front line is their problem, because they're going to take those problems and put them in their top of funnel material, campaigns to generate leads. That's the key for all of this stuff. Marketing needs to reflect what's happening in sales. Sales need to reflect what's happening in marketing. Our firm generally gets branded as an omni-channel or multi-channel agency, because we're able to run, we can do everything from permission-based email to cold email, LinkedIn ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn outreach. There's a plethora of things that we can combine. And companies struggle to put together 2 or 3 channels. And the reason they do is because they're not telling the same story amongst all of these channels. So
I am so going to pick your brain right now. And I got some great ideas for you. Ben Kniffen 2.0 or 3.0, or you might be going on 5.0. Well, first of all, is going to be the game show, right? Okay. There's going to be the name that pain game. Name that pain game. Okay. And you're going to have, it's going to look like Family Feud, but you're going to have the marketers on one team and you're going to have the salespeople on the other side. And you're going to be the host. Name that pain game, right? And then from Name That Pain game, ultimately, whoever wins will do a Name That Pain name campaign
Yeah.
and to generate leads, and the winners get like $10,000. And you should be running this on LinkedIn with companies and name that pain game.
That's
And
actually not a bad idea. That
no,
would
it's
work.
a phenomenal idea. You know how I know? Because I came up with it.
But there you go. Well, don't be
No.
surprised if I steal it then. I don't know
No,
if
I
the
gave it to you, man.
Oh,
This
okay,
is
there we
real
go.
time, relevant right now. No, really, seriously. It would be a great campaign. Name that pain campaign in your niche. And you run this and roll with it and get engagement, especially how many followers and how big is your list? Ben, literally, this could be a big deal for you.
Well,
And
well,
and for us as clients.
yeah. I think So the name of we run campaigns on all sorts of different channels. Our business name is Linked Selling because obviously we had a big tie to LinkedIn. And initially, I mean, we have presented. I'm not even kidding. I mean, like a million webinars and in-person talks and everything. And especially in the beginning, when we talk about the differences between what happened 10 years ago versus what happened now. In the beginning, a lot of people they wanted us to talk about what buttons to go push on LinkedIn. Like that must be the key, is understanding what buttons to go push. Now, I file that process under the right delivery or right machine box that I talk about being checked. And it's certainly important. But man, everything comes down to the right message when it's marketing and sales. That if we can't start there, this idea of naming that pain, a lot of the businesses that we work with, again, when we're putting together a campaign, businesses are usually giving us some sort of marketing and sales collateral for us to pull apart. And everything is just so focused on the features of whatever service that they sell.
And nobody cares.
No, they don't.
Nobody cares. What's in it for me?
Yep.
That's what it's all about. Why are you talking about you? I don't care how long you've been in business. I don't care what your product or service does. I want to know if you can heal my migraine right now because it's been going on for a while.
And I think the key to developing a really good sales and marketing machine, we're going to borrow. I should have said this earlier, John. So don't tell anybody, but I have stolen material from Chet Holmes. So
You're a criminal.
Yeah. So he always talks about the ultimate sales machine. We have a methodology that we always talk about. And again, it is kind of paired against this checking these 3 boxes backdrop. But we have this methodology called the ultimate, I'm stealing from Chet, the ultimate client acquisition playbook. And one of the things that companies desire to do is have this really big marketing machine that is delivering all of these touch points and is providing all these value to these prospects, because especially in the B2B world, sales cycles are long. The dollars are large, right? And we're not selling sunglasses. We're not selling things that we're making a decision on in 5 minutes. Okay. So we have to have the ability to deliver content and touch points and material that are going to be beneficial to our prospects. And so for an agent, a company to be pumping out a ton of marketing collateral, it's just like, here's another PDF on all the new AI features we have upgraded into no one cares about that. What we need are case studies and examples of pains that we're solving and how we're solving them. And we've got to build funnels. The best marketers that are out there are building funnels where clients get to constantly get tastes of what solving the pain is like throughout the marketing and sales process. And that process is definitely marketing and sales together. It's not going to be, marketing takes it here and then sales takes it here. They're both involved all the way through and through. But yeah, that's where, when I know you're kind of kidding about the name the pain thing, but also semi-serious.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about a super framework of, like if I was I don't have a marketing agency. I'm not ruling it out, but name that pain game is how I would sit down and do discovery for clients, I would say, first thing we're going to do is name that pain. And we call it name that pain game. What are your prospects pain?
Yeah.
And whether we have to use AI, chat GBT, Google, the almighty Google, and find out the pains in your specific industry, all the way down to a niche of who you really want to work with.
Yeah.
And then, I'm gonna send you a gift after the engagement, and it's gonna be the name that pain board game, so that your sales and marketing can play it together, and you can get consistent, sustainable, scalable results.
Yeah, that's it.
So I just use metaphors and keep things simple, because the name that pain game is what they're getting wrong, and that's why they actually call you Ben Kniffen, because you know how to win in that game.
Yeah, in the reason why I harp so much again in these 3 boxes talking about the right message to be getting into your marketing. Again, we get so many companies who come to us and they're like, "Show us what buttons to push." It's like, whoa, your issue isn't pushing the right buttons. Your issue is your messaging. And I'll be honest, we work with businesses of all different sizes, solopreneurs all the way up to billion-dollar companies. And it is, first off, it's crazy to see the problems that billion-dollar companies have. They've got the same problems as the companies that are 2 and 3 people. So, the issues happen across the board. But it is really crazy for me to see how many businesses are like, "Hey, can you show us how to log into our LinkedIn profile? Can you show us how to send a connection request?" And I got to tell those businesses, man, if that's where we're at, we're gonna struggle. We are at a much higher level now. You will see that the most impactful material that we are going to digest is not about how to send a connection request. It's about the psychology of your buyer and what is it that they are looking for. What are they going to resonate with? And that's why the message is so important. Because if they will find a message that's important, like I will be honest, I will joke with some prospects about this. Prospects will kind of argue with me and say, "Look, we have to deliver our message on this platform because this is what works and this other platform doesn't work." And that is a fallacy. If you have a migraine and a carrier pigeon brings you a real solution, it has a message tied to its leg and it brings you that solution to that migraine, you do not care that a carrier pigeon brought it to you. You care that the message names your pain and brings you the solution. So that's the real key for all of these B2B and B2C marketing campaigns. Now, maybe you're running an ad-based campaign. Maybe you have an outreach campaign. You've got a cold calling campaign. There are processes to execute those accordingly. But the checking those 3 boxes and nailing that right message those are really the key components to kind of winning this game, in our opinion.
Yeah, my experience working with B2B clients, and it's truth be told, I literally just did an engagement with a client that does $80 million a year.
Yeah.
And it takes them 6 weeks because they have a big manufacturing distribution company. They have distributors, hundreds of them. Some of them do 5 million a year. Some of them do 10 million a year. Like, they're big distributors. And yet it's only like 5 to 10% of their distributors' business. So they are always making adjustments to them, but it's taking them 6 weeks to gather all of the data, and they get all of their data from Excel. There's nothing automated.
Yeah.
And so trends have already passed. Seasons have passed by the time they get new data. 6 weeks is a long time, and we've been able to solve their problem, and now they can see their data real time in less than an hour.
Right.
And we're talking millions of transactions. So it's no surprise to me. And yesterday I had a conversation with a bank. Same thing. They're using Excel. A lot of banks do lead gathering and they have no automation with their lead gathering. I find a lot of these organizations are no different than, a mom and pop shop.
True.
As far as automation. And that's why for me, it is the psychology. And my psychology for sales is, number one, it's all Zig Ziglar, the psychology. Service, solve problems, make sure they're satisfied. Chet Holmes, education-based marketing comes to play. So that's the psychology, and hitting it on the head when you do the Name That Pain campaign game is going to allow us to target the right person, the right industry with the right messaging.
Yep.
However, a lot of companies out there don't understand the methodology to deliver it. And so I want you to speak and go deeper into when you just say it's a messaging or it's an ad campaign. Let's talk about, Ben, how you use each one of those different modalities in marketing to actually get real results for clients. And we can start with, cold outreach campaign and messaging. And how what do you guys do differently that other people are not doing?
Yeah. So let me answer that, and I'm going to bolt on some more material to that. In terms of the right message, like I'll get real in the weeds of outreach campaigns right now. There is a big push towards, I think what we have all gotten messages where people will try to say, like, I'm from St. Louis, right? And so the St. Louis Cardinals play here. And truth be told, I'm a massive Cardinals fan. But I don't care if a solution provider knows that I'm from St. Louis and sends me a message about, like, hey, I love the Cardinals. Maybe they'll win this year. Hey, that, and then go into their sales pitch. These are the types of things that people are trying to automate now with AI, where it's, hey, can we find what city a person is in and then pull the sports team in? Or maybe we can find what city they're in and say, hey, I just visited your city, or I'm going to visit there in a little bit. Can you tell me where's a good place to eat in your city? And people want to create messaging scripts around that. That's the wrong way to go. So again, it's going to be pain-based messaging. I think the big component here, so I'm going to take a step back because you were asking some specifics on outreach, but one of the things that we cover in terms of implementing the strategy is when it comes down to generating leads, there are only 3 ways to generate leads, 3 sources. And I dare someone to argue with me on this. The first is paid advertising. Now, this could certainly come in the form of digital, right? Could be Google, could be LinkedIn ads, could be Facebook ads, but it can also be a radio commercial. It can be a billboard, right? It's something that you are paying to get a message on. The second way you can get leads is through content, right? Content and ads are so similar. Content is material that you're putting out to an audience that you're not paying for, right? Maybe you got an email list. Maybe you got a following on a social media platform. So paid ads, content, and then the third one is outreach. I'm going to build a cold list of contacts. They don't know me. I'm going to reach out to them, okay? Now, some people might say, well, what about partnerships or referrals? Well, if I have a process to acquire those are going to be through outreach. I'm going to message a partner. I'm going to message a referral. Okay. So those are the only 3 ways to generate leads. Once we understand that, we then need to kind of pull apart what is the responsibility of the ads that we're running? What's the responsibility of our content or our outreach? Every single one of those areas, they have like 2 to 3 responsibilities of what they are trying to achieve. If we're running an ad campaign, we need a campaign that is going to generate and capture a lead from the top of the funnel to the middle of the funnel. And so how do we do that? We're back to pain-based messaging. I need to have processes and messages that are going to get people to opt in to my content. I want to have content that is so good on my paid channels that they're like, I've got to opt into this list to get this content, right? So this is a lot of material to cover in a podcast because when we're talking about all the different channels and all the different methodologies, it comes down to putting pain-based content on channels and getting people to opt in to get more of that pain-based content. Like that's it. That's all that it is. So when it comes to paid, I'm usually getting them to opt into things like white papers, case studies, webinars. When it comes to outreach, I want them to book an appointment to get a solution to the pain that they're having. Content is kind of the same way. I'm driving people towards solutions and resources that solve their pain. These are the big ways to do this. Once I capture those leads, I need to have processes in my middle of the funnel. My sales team and my CRM needs to deliver touch points to continuously nurture these people. Like, that's it. And what happens so many times is people will start running campaigns top of funnel that don't check those 3 boxes. They don't target the right people. They don't put the right message in front of them. Or they run campaigns that don't actually capture the lead. And really, that's a byproduct of the right system, the right machine, the right delivery. It does no good for me to put the right message in front of the right person, but the wrong machine. So it just comes down to, like, John, I am a broken record on this stuff. It comes to checking these 3 boxes. If I'm running an ad campaign, that ad campaign has got to target the right people, the right message, and have the right process. So when we're working with clients and we're trying to figure out what's the right fit, we're looking at this right person and we're trying to figure out what's the best way to get this right person this message. How is this infrastructure going to work? If we're running a webinar, we're going to run paid traffic to it. But if we're targeting a list of like 1,000 named accounts, we're just going to get contact info and email them and send them LinkedIn messages. So all this material is all kind of hooked together. And obviously, I've got a lot of presentation material where I walk people through where visually they can see this, and it's a little more difficult to explain in podcast form. But all of this rambling, you can kind of see the methodology on how you execute this is how you check these boxes top of funnel: paid ads, content, and outreach. These are the ways that I generate leads. And I've got to be leading to people to get solutions to problems they have, solutions to solve the problems that they have.
Yeah, and that's what I speak to about methodology. So that's a huge insight into how you deliver the results to the right people. And right now, you're delivering it for companies. And a lot of companies are doing some things right and they're doing some things wrong. So let's speak back to the Omni-Channel, because I see it as Omni-Channel in marketing with the different methodologies of your three boxes you need to check and the 3 different ways of generating the leads, whether it's paid, content, or even outreach. What do you think companies, for the most part, because you are industry agnostic and you work with all kinds of different companies, what do you think the biggest mistake companies are making by not going omni-channel? Obviously, they're fishing in a pond where they could be fishing in the ocean where there's bigger fish. There's even that thing called a whale, which, I love whales. I don't know about you. Blue whales, sperm whales. Give me the whales.
Yeah,
because,
whales are good.
Mackerel, man, it just takes, a lot of mackerel to be satisfied. Let's speak to that.
And a lot of times the sales process to get the mackerel might be close to the amount of effort to get a whale sometimes. But you're talking about mistakes that people are making in terms of running omni-channel or multi-channel campaigns. And I think a lot of the mistakes that happen occur by not telling this same story. They think like, all right, we're going to run a LinkedIn ads campaign. So we're going to create this campaign with all of this unique material, all of this unique marketing collateral, and a unique story for LinkedIn. And the problem is that then they're developing content for another channel. And then they have the content that they've handed their sales team. That's all different. None of it tells the same story. And companies think we have got to like be pumping out so much material that we just got to create all these new stories. It's like, nah, you kind of got like 1 or 2 stories. McDonald's isn't running a new commercial with a new slogan every single week. They've got 1 million commercials and it all has the same slogan. Ba, 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 I'm loving it. That's what they do.
Ba, ba, ba.
And so now the reason everyone knows it is because McDonald's has built an omni-channel machine where everywhere you go, it's the same story, it's the same message. So what people miss out on when they're not running omni-channel is, if you remember earlier on, I was mentioning that we are now competing not just against our competitors, we are competing against everyone who's trying to capture the attention of our prospects. And so let's say that 15 years ago, I got my clients by cold calling, okay? And, maybe I was cutting edge and I knew how to do it better than everyone else. And cold calling is still a viable way to generate leads. But if it's the only thing I can do, I've only got one channel to generate touch points on. And the companies that win this game are the ones that can generate as many touch points on as many different channels as possible. That's why you want an omni-channel machine, because you want your clients to be seeing your message, this pain-based message that you've worked so hard on. You want it reflected everywhere. You want I'm loving it is not a pain-based message.
There you go.
But we'll
I'm
use it
loving it.
We'll use it as an example. You want that message everywhere, so that when all of a sudden you're hungry, you think McDonald's.
Amen.
Because, that's it. So people miss out on the fact that there used to be these studies that would say, it takes to convert a prospect, it takes like 7 touch points or 17 touch points or 27. What's the real number? I don't even know anymore. I know it's not 2
case
touch
by case. I closed, a couple $100,000 client in literally 4 months, start to finish, in a B2B software space, and normally 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
But it depends.
Right.
I had another prospect on a call, wanted a demo. I said no. And they're like, what do you mean no? I'm like, no. Let me find out about your company and tell me about your problems. Otherwise, I ain't showing you nothing, because I'm not here to waste your time or mine. I really want to know that I can help you. I'm not going to sell you anything. At the end of the call, sent the proposal, they signed it, and made the sale.
It is possible to close high ticket B2B, high value B2B. It is absolutely possible to close them in 1 to 3 weeks. I see it regularly.
I closed them in 45 minutes.
Yep. But I will also say, I have people who we will close. I'll get on a call and someone will say, I've been following you for 7 years and I've been waiting to book a call this whole entire time. And why didn't they do it? I don't know. Just wasn't the right time. The pain wasn't as bad for them at that moment. There's a whole slew of other reasons.
Yeah, and I get it. You got to be top of mind.
Yeah, that's it. You have to be delivering.
Top of mind, and that's bottom line. If you're not top of mind, you're never going to be top of funnel. But speaking to that, I'm going to ask you, what a lot of people are talking about, and in the blame game, there's another game. There's one called, name that pain. And then there's one called the blame game between sales and marketing. What defines Mr. Ben Kniffen an MQL and an SQL? And whose role is it to determine what an MQL is and an SQL? Is it the salesperson that determines an SQL? But who qualifies them? Is it sales or marketing?
Okay.
Let's hear it from the expert.
This is my opinion. I think an SQL will be determined by the sales team alone. Okay. I think an MQL is determined by both the sales and marketing team. Now that I lay that out, these are my definitions for an MQL and an SQL. An MQL is a lead that's generated with a prospect that fits the profile of who you sell to. Okay. Now, this will get debated and people will say, well, an MQL should be a person who has a pain and is ready to buy. Well, what's an SQL then? Because to me, an SQL is an opportunity to sell somebody. To me, a marketing qualified lead means this is the type of person we want to talk to. So if I have a lead that's booked a call with me and I look on a spreadsheet and I say, well, we sell to plant managers of manufacturing facilities west of the Mississippi with 200 employees or more in the chemical space. And I see somebody has booked a call with me and they check all those boxes and then they get on the call and they show up and I hear, we go through the pain and I pitch them solutions and we talk about everything and they say, yeah, we don't need this. We're not the right fit. I would say that was a marketing qualified lead but it wasn't a sales qualified lead.
Amen. But you've checked the box. 200 employees.
Yeah.
They're doing over $5 million in sales. They work for a legit company that checks all those boxes. That's a legit marketing qualified lead.
Yeah.
Sales determines when they get on there if it was a sales qualified lead by finding out how deep is their pain.
Yeah. And I think both of these teams need to understand where the other side is coming from. This would be a much easier world if the marketing team could go get appointments with those people and make sure they're going to bring their credit card in hand because they're ready to spend. But it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, but it doesn't work that way. And now you don't have salespeople. You have what I call sales clerks.
Yeah, right. They're order takers then.
Yeah, then they're just order takers. So the sales still have a role to play, and that's discovery. Like a doctor, right? You need to really identify not just the pain, but if you want to do sales at the highest level, you need to know the root cause of that pain and how to solve that and do it sustainably and scalably. And then you're going to have long-term scalable success.
Yeah, I completely agree because, and I think a lot of bad salespeople need to hear this. Sales is a high level skill set. I mean, it is a real skill set. And when you talk to really good salespeople, you understand what it means to be good at sales. Sales is not order taking. And so if all you are doing is taking orders, you're not really selling. So if we're defining selling as identifying a problem and being able to work with people to get to a place where they can make a decision on a solution, then there's a clear distinction between an MQL and an SQL. And my point with bringing that up is that you cannot expect marketing to generate SQLs. They will be the beginning of that process, but we all know that this is a numbers game. You can talk to 10 MQLs and you could get 9 SQLs out of that. Sometimes you can only get 3. This is the way that sales and marketing works. It's a numbers game. Now, of course, you might be in a business where the solution you're selling, like if you're selling toilet paper, everybody needs it. Okay? That's just the way it goes. But most of us are selling products.
Depends on where you live, big boy. Like you go to Japan, you don't need anything.
Well, that may be the case. Most of us are selling products and solutions that only a specific group of people need. Not everybody's going to need them. And so we want to talk to as many people who fit that profile as possible. The sales team will be able to draw out the SQLs out of it. And SQL is not a person who shows up on the call with their credit card in hand. Because there's going to be tons of times where people have the money, but they're going to say, I don't have any money. Because you haven't done anything to qualify them or help solve their problem. And so, these are distinctions that we need to understand. But marketing needs to know what good sales conversations are and what they're experiencing, or what the sales team is experiencing on their calls. And sales needs to understand how targeting at a top of funnel marketing level works.
Yeah, and a lot of times, and I find this with amateur salespeople, a lot of times, they're afraid to make the prospect uncomfortable.
That is a bad fear to have for a salesperson because solving problems might mean that a person has to get to an uncomfortable place.
Well, what's going to move you? What's going to move you? If you're comfortable, it's going to be, it's okay. I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
You're not solving a real pain point for me right now. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. It's no big deal. But if you drill down the pain and you make them uncomfortable and you can explain what it's costing them
100%
and how much it's going to cost them in the future. And, how long has it been going on for? And why?
Yeah.
Why has it been going on for so long? Don't you have a budget? I mean, you're losing. Like the bank, I showed them yesterday, you guys are losing $45 million a year on payroll and man hours and manpower, wasted time. And guess what? not only are you losing that because of inefficiency, how much lost opportunity is happening because your people are wasting those 3 times? Tell me, are your salespeople going to be able to sell more with those additional 3 hours a day times 1,000 people? Right? That's root cause. And they're like, well, this, and one of my people after the call said, well, John, don't you think you were being a bit direct and exposing all their problems? And I'm like,
that's how you sell.
Yep. That's exactly what I was doing.
And again, back to the pain messaging thing. The interesting thing is the pain is what connects sales and marketing, because sales teams are going to sell through pain, and whatever that pain is needs to be showcased in marketing campaigns.
Ben, we got to work together. We got to build out the board game. Name that pain board game. I'm telling you, it resonates. I'm going to have my video editor and my content writer and my graphic designer design the Name That Pain board game for sales and marketers. And you know what?
Sell to every company.
It's going to look like Monopoly, and we're going to send you the first iteration of it because, I thought of it. We'll ask ChatGPT. We'll get some AI involved, and we'll put it out there. And Ben, you can run a campaign.
We can use it. It'll be a team building kind of experience playing this game between sales and marketing to actually get them to frickin' communicate without trying to cut each other's heads off. They'll get to sit down and play a game with each other.
Yeah, and we can even have different squares on the board game. When you score, whether you're in sales or marketing, we can even have a space where you can land on pie in the eye. That's right. You get a pie in the eye. If you land somewhere and you didn't discover enough pain, pie in the eye, baby.
There you go.
Anyway, man, this has been a blast, Ben. Tell me about one of the best campaigns you ever ran to scale a client, and the result of all of it.
We had a client that was in the technology security space. They had a solution that would kind of integrate into, they sold to businesses that had large campuses. So everything from casinos, hospitals, multi-site retail, schools. And we had ran a campaign that was based on, it was a LinkedIn ads campaign. And we had ran this campaign for 2 years. And this company went from like 46 employees to like 164 employees. They like 4 times, they 4x'd their growth in a 2-year period. And I mean, clearly there's other things that are going on, but the big backbone of this was this lead generation campaign. We were generating thousands of leads with decision makers at massive companies. If I were to name them, I mean, there's like everything from Home Depot to Red Cross. I mean, there was just thousands of organizations. We were getting key decision makers, and all of their lead generation was based on this campaign. That's one example of the thousands of campaigns that we've run over the last 12 years. And it came down to checking the 3 boxes. We knew the pain of the prospect. We had the right delivery because we knew that we were going to run a LinkedIn ads campaign to get them. And we had the right prospect because we definitely knew the people who experienced the problem. And yeah, when you run campaigns that check those 3 boxes, that's where sales and growth happens. So
excellent. And so, there's a lot of jargon out there, right? Whether it's go-to market or ICP, ideal client profile, and then now lead generation and sales is all about account-based marketing. That's the new one, the ABM, and it's not new. It's been around. But what do you think is the best approach for account-based marketing on LinkedIn right now?
Yeah, I mean, and so I define account-based marketing as kind of, you have a list of targeted accounts that you want to go after. This is where LinkedIn these days, we referenced that there was a time in the past where LinkedIn was the wild, wild west. There were no restrictions on volume. You could send out 1 million connection requests and messages a day. You can't do that anymore. And so we'll work with a lot of organizations who might have a multi decision maker sales process, right? Where
B2B.
yeah, they're gonna interact with like 8 different people along the sales process. And everybody always thinks, well, the CEO signs the check, so that's who we should target. And I'm not saying you shouldn't target the CEO, but here's what I'm saying. When you're talking about account-based marketing, it comes down to this. If you're going to be doing account-based marketing on LinkedIn from an outreach standpoint, if there's only so many people I can go after, I want to go after the person who is the most common to show up on my discovery calls. I get that other people may be involved in the decision-making process. I get that other people may sign the check, but I want to go after who shows up on my calls with the problem to solve. That's who I want to target. When it comes to, a lot of people don't know this, but when it comes to LinkedIn ads, if you want to use an ABM approach, let's say you had a list of 4,000 companies that you wanted to target. Each company had like 6 to 8 targets that you wanted to go after. You can literally take that list and put it into LinkedIn and run ads at nobody else except for the decision makers at those companies. And that's what makes LinkedIn's ad platform pretty powerful versus Facebook. That's a little bit trickier to do. But on LinkedIn, if I'm using an ABM approach and I got a list of companies, I can just load that list on in and just say, only run ads that are targeted to these companies. And if I have top of funnel content that hits on pain and gets people to opt in to generate a lead, I got the makings of a good ABM campaign.
Right on. Content, white papers, webinars. Come on.
Yeah.
Ben Kniffen gave you the gold today. So one final thing, AI, it's here.
Yep.
A lot of people, they say it's the future. Well, you're so wrong. It's already here.
Yeah.
It's been here. It's right now. It's not the future. It's already happening right now. So how can people leverage AI? How are you at Link Selling leveraging AI to scale your ability to generate more leads?
Yeah. So when you really break down how you execute a campaign, there's the strategy and there's the process. Okay. I personally think AI is great for process automation. I think it's great for taking repeatable tasks and executing them without a human needing to do so. I don't think AI can come up with the creative strategy that a really good marketing and sales development team can do. And so you've got to understand where does AI's talents start and stop? Can AI automate a process to help message 10,000 people? It can. Can it even help write messages, unique messages for all 10,000 of those people? Yes, it can. But I've got to know the strategy behind these messages. A human has to be able to do it. So my point is that there are times where 90% of a process can be automated through AI. But if the 10% of the magic that comes behind the strategy, and when I say strategy, it's like, what's the actual message that's getting written? What's the story we're telling? What's the pain point we're leaning on? What's the copy that we're writing? How what's the methodology we're using to write that copy? I can't have AI do all of that. It's not as good as people at that. Will it be one day? I don't know. Maybe. I know we're not there yet. So automating process, cool. I'm all for that. Coming up with your entire campaign strategy, not yet. I'm not using it for that. Good marketers and salespeople are what do that job.
Amen. And so when it comes to LinkedIn metrics, which ones really matter for sales success and which ones are just noise?
Yeah. So again, these are different if it's outreach versus ads. I mean, when it comes down to ads, I a lot of times think click-through rate and cost per lead. Like that, that's really it. And I should say MQL percentage.
Amen.
So if I had 10 leads opt in and 8 of them are MQLs, I like that. If I have 1 lead opt in 10 leads opt in and only one's an MQL, well, that sucks. Something's wrong with my campaign. So those are
You
the three.
can use smoke and mirrors and say, well, that's 10%. That's
Yeah.
better than industry standard.
Yeah. That's on LinkedIn, you should be expecting a 70 to 80% MQL rate from an ad campaign.
What about Facebook? Because you do omni-channel. Come on, bring it.
Yeah. So it's going to be lower on Facebook. I would expect it depends on the campaign and what is the target. From a B2B standpoint, cold. I mean, in some cases, I might not even
Ads.
recommend.
These are ads, though. Video, even it's a video-based ad.
Let's say that I'm retargeting site traffic. In that instance, my MQL rate could be really high. But if I'm targeting
Give me a
cold,
number. Like it's a badass video ad, self-explanatory, hits the pain and gives you the solution in a minute or less. What should the retargeting be?
if it was retargeting, you're probably still at 70 to 80%. But if you're targeting cold, I might expect lower, 30 to 40% in some cases.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe, but again, to compare LinkedIn and Facebook, it's comparing apples and oranges because I don't want to, those are two different tools for two different jobs. And so if I'm B2B and I'm targeting cold audiences, Facebook may not be a great channel for me to use. Now, if the way that I'm targeting somebody is from interest based, right? So say I'm, targeting people who love dogs. Yeah, I can get Facebook to crush it from an MQL standpoint. So it really just depends on what the target is. But I think it's safe to say, especially in B2B, quality on LinkedIn is higher and it's lower on Facebook. So people will become enamored with lead costs on Facebook and they'll say LinkedIn's expensive. To generate leads on a LinkedIn ads campaign, yeah, they're more expensive. But when you're trying to get MQLs and SQLs, your MQL and SQL rate are going to be way cheaper on LinkedIn than they will on Facebook. What does it matter if you can generate $8 leads if if the majority are not going to be good? But remember too,
If they're garbage.
Yeah, let's say you're running like a biz op type campaign, like business opportunity. I have a webinar that I'm going to use to enroll people into a course. And I'm showing people how to do something on how to make money. Well, I can go to Facebook and scale the heck out of that all day long. But if I want to target, say, founders of SaaS companies that are between, $2 and $10 million, I'm probably going to be better off targeting on LinkedIn. And so, again, this is why it's important to work with an expert who is.
Yeah. So like manufacturing distribution companies.
LinkedIn.
That manage, 100 distributors.
LinkedIn.
Facebook or LinkedIn?
LinkedIn. If you are defining your prospect profile by really anchored demographic, like titles, industries, company size, that feels like LinkedIn. But if you're defining your prospect profile by non-B2B criteria or thoughts and feelings, a lot of times it's going to be Facebook. So for instance, if I said, well, I want to target single moms who are burnt out because of X, Y, and Z, that feels more Facebook because there's no box to check on LinkedIn that's like only show this to single moms. LinkedIn, they need, titles and industries. And so again, this is what happens when you are in an agency that works across the gamut with all these different B2B and B2C companies. You have the visibility into all the different types of campaigns that work, and being able to, a lot of what we're talking about is this right delivery, this right machine. Sometimes companies come to us and they go, I know what the solution is. We got to use this platform to do this. And I will have to say, sometimes, no, you're wrong.
So why are you here again?
Yeah, right.
You already have all the answers.
That's it.
You're still here.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you want to be successful on LinkedIn, ladies and gentlemen, you need to link up with linked selling and contact Ben Kniffen. He's not an FNG. He's not a freaking new guy. He's been doing this for decades. He's dropped bombs today And we're grateful to have you, Ben. Any final thoughts?
I mean, the big piece that we help our clients with, again, is like trying to figure out how do we, in this day and age, companies need to run campaigns on multiple channels. How do you tie them all together? You need infrastructure that both connects from a technological standpoint and from a story and strategy point. Like that ends up being your big focus. I mean, when you ask my final thoughts after a talk like this, I'm going to talk about pain-based messaging, pain-based content, pain-based material. That's where you start, not what buttons do I push on what platform. You can hire, and you can hire people to do that, but real campaign strategy comes down to pain-based marketing. So that's where we typically start at with our clients.
Amen. You heard it from Ben Kniffen, ladies and gentlemen. Psychology, methodology, and how to use technology to scale your business. Thanks for a great show, Ben.
Thanks for having me, John. I super appreciated it.
That's a wrap, folks. Thanks for joining me today. And if you got value from this episode, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and refer a friend. And if you want even more value, go to thesalesmachine.com, click on resources, and there's tons of resources there to increase profits and drive performance in your business. Right on, come on.